Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are having a great day, morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you guys are all joining in. We have a really great group today that's in attendance. Please feel free to send any of your chat messages in, and we will be having 4 other webinars this week. If you haven't registered for those, please do so later on today uh, so that you do receive a copy of those if you aren't able to attend, and if you are able to attend, so that you can receive a copy as well. All of our sessions are being recorded. I am excited to get started. This is my most favorite subject to talk about, is how to think Mozenda, because it can be applied to everything that we do when it comes to data mining and data scraping. Because it is right at the hour, I am going to give about a minute for just a few more people to jump on, and then we'll jump into how to think Mozenda. Okay, let's jump into it. So today, the agenda is to go over some common terms so that we can have a similar language as we discuss Mozenda. Then we're going to be talking about how to think Mozenda when it comes to scoping a project, looking at a website that we may need to extract data from, and then we're going to build an agent using our point and click technique. Because we put in the work of scoping out our agent, we'll be able to have the skills to build something that's fairly simple but also powerful. Our purpose today is to be able to scope any project and complete the basic build of an agent. I like to say that Mozenda it isn't easy, but it is powerful. So the more that we practice it together, the better you'll become at it. So the first glossary words that I want to go over is an agent. An agent is a set of steps used to perform data scraping. You build these in the agent builder. They are ran on a Windows machine when you download the software of an agent builder. The agents are built inside the agent builder. This is where you can design, modify, and test. And like I mentioned, they are compatible with the Windows machine, but they can be used on Mac with using some software, and we have a blog article up on our website about that as well. One of our most powerful users here at Mozenda uses a Mac. Additionally, when you open up your builder, this is what it will look like. You can open up the builder from the web console, from an icon that you downloaded onto your computer. But when you initially open it, it will look like this. As we're working together today, I'm going to be using the Chromium version, or the Mozenda 7 beta. This runs on the Tesla of data scraping engines and provides us some more capabilities than the Internet Explorer or the Triton version. So to upgrade to that, and you can switch between the two as you like, it's not an absolute. You'll go to File, inside your builder, Settings, check the box that says Beta Browser, and then select Restart Now. From there, it will restart your agent builder so that you are now using the Chromium engine, so that when you actually harvest your data, it's going to come in faster, and you have the capabilities of the dev tools. We'll go over some nuances tomorrow of how to interact with dev tools similar to the DOM functionality of the Internet Explorer, so that you have those capabilities that a lot of our customers enjoyed. Inside the agent builder, this feature is called test. You can get a preview of your data before you run it with our harvesters. I love this, and I encourage you guys to test your agents as frequently as possible. This will help you not only diagnose errors, but make sure that the format of the data that you are mining is coming back the way you'd like. It gives you an estimate of the amount of credits that you will be using, as well as right here, and the estimated runtime. This is just an estimate, and it's not pulling from any of your credits. Our action lists is the recipe that makes up your agent that's going to be scraping the data. On this specific agent that I took a screenshot of, you'll see there's page 1 and page 2. This lets me know that I have 2 different areas of the website that I'm going to. I'm going into the convention details, and I'm going to just the main list and the actions that are associated with this. Another great functionality is the windows. This is more information if you are not viewing all the tools and resources you want, as far as like capture text preview, XPath, DevTools. You can always modify that. To modify it, you'll go to File, Windows, and then check the boxes that you'd like as far as windows to be shown to you. We'll be able to see that more as we build an agent today. So in our agent builder, we have test agent, we have our action list, and our windows. Additionally, once you finish your build, you will click save, and this will save it to your web console. The web console to me is where it starts getting really fun, because this is where you're getting the data. You have different functionalities where you can manage the data and the way it interacts with your output, how you'd like it presented at the end. We're going to spend an entire day just kind of on these optimizations. A lot of it come from automation as well as streamlining a process so that you're informed about your agent without having to be living inside the builder or the web console. To get to the web console, you'll log into Mozenda by going to mozenda.com, clicking login in the top right-hand corner. Once you get to the login home screen, you'll be presented with account settings, the number of processing credits you do have, the agent collection, and some of these may be, there may be more options up here than you're used to. This is what is capable for enterprise license. Sequences allows you to run agents in parallel. So you have multiple agents and that agent broken up into multiple jobs running at the same time. So we'll all be going through this agent collection section. When you select agent and go to all agents, you'll be presented with your agent list. These are where all your agents can be found. Mine are configured using the Mozenda 7 Chromium. You can see that on configuration. If I select an agent, I'm going to be brought to the agent dashboard. This is where I can add custom settings here in the tool gear. We also have a collection list. We have a standard collection or we have an agent collection. A standard collection, like this address list, is information that I have uploaded to Mozenda. So if there's zip codes, addresses, if there are certain SKU numbers that I want to search for in a website or an agent, then I can use that file as a resource in my agents and upload that to Mozenda. I also have my agent collection, which has come directly from an agent that I had been working with. Underneath this agents tab, I can select agent groups. High level, this will create a template for you so that you can simply just click on the template and check off the fields that you've already used and the actions to do. It saves all of those agents in the same agent template and will let you know that they're using a template. It's different from agent folders, or this folders over here, because it's not used for an organization tactic, but it's used more so for a checklist. And we'll show some of those. Our harvesters is the lifeblood of why we're here. Harvesting is a process of automatically extracting data from websites. We have 2 kinds of harvesting settings here at Mozenda. One is standard, the other is premium. Standard is the default. This will have minimal impact on your credits because it's one credit used per request or navigation request or action for those. With premium harvesting, it's used on more popular sites, and it will rotate your IP address for every 3 actions to ensure that we are still hitting those safeguards on more popular websites, but you're able to get the data you need. Mozenda is nice because you will be notified if you are using a website that requires premium harvesting. In this instance, if I typed in Amazon and wanted to start an agent from that page, it would prompt me and let me know that I am going to be using premium harvesting. Once I clicked Got It, it would choose a proxy pool of where my IP address would be rotated from. So why is that important? We know that there's harvesting. If we know that there's different versions, how does that apply to your specific agent building needs? When we are getting data, we want to make sure our harvesters have the right instructions. That comes down to building a good agent. But secondly, so that if an error occurs, we can stop them and we can fix what's going on. So inside our agent, in the web console, we can change our harvesting settings to stop when there's an error and stop when it can be fixed. And knowing what type of harvesting is happening, we will be able to apply the appropriate settings for those, because all errors are opportunities. And the more that we are familiar with the harvesters and how it will gather that data, the better agent builders will become. So now to the fun part of how to scope a project and think Mozenda. We are going to be going through a couple different use cases that go over both qualitative and quantitative data and how that compares of the process of project scoping. When we are working on a project, the best thing to do is walk through the website manually. Second is list out the actions that you're going to be taking and then build your agent. So I'm going to pull up our website right here. We are going to do a simple, we're going to do one on cameras. And so the most important thing is to keep the end in mind. What am I getting? What data do I need? How am I going to get it? And why is it important? So as I look at this is going to be our quantitative, where it comes back to like product details. We're going to do one on locations as well as one for that qualitative data. So I want to get more information on these cameras. I need to look at the website to see what I would do manually. So in this instance, I would want the title of each item. And as I hover over each one of those, it feels clickable. Like I could click in here, and it does, and get more information. So here, I want to get the model number. I want to make sure I have the price and the details. Let's see, and I also have the model number here, but it may not be as easy to get, so I'm just going to make a mental note that that would be a helpful place to start. I don't just want this one page. I want to go to page 2 and 3, so I want to go through all of these. But there's something else to note. If I click this next button, I can go to the next page and it says page right, but there's also this drop down here where I could change it so there's 10 results. So if I could start my my agent where it's looking at these first 10 results, then I only have to paginate to page 3 to make sure that what I want to do is check to see if the URL changed when I selected a different page amount. And so here in the URL, it says products 10, page 1, HTML. To me, that's a good sign so that when I do start my agent, I'll be able to have a landmark here of what to look for. So I can say, okay, start on this camera page, but make sure that there's 10 objects there before you begin. Then paginate. So we're going to pull open, when we create a template, I recommend this for everybody, even our most experienced power users, to create a template. So we're going to, oops, try and move this so it's not so in our way. We're going to list out everything when it comes to title, paginate, so that we can identify what actions we want to take. So I'm going to say I want the product name, I want the price, and I want it to, and I'm only going to do it for this first page, what actions I want it to take. So we have the product name, we have the price, and then I want to go to the next page, but I also want it to click on the product and go to the next page. When I click on the next product, that's where, once I click on that product, I want to get the model number and the description. Now I have my checklist of how I want my agent to be built. So let's go into Mozenda and build this first example, because on top of building an agent and scoping a project, to really think Mozenda, we need to understand what actions are capable when it comes to building. Because if we know what is possible, then we'll know how to get our end result. To begin building an agent, I inputted my URL, I made sure it load, then I clicked Start a New Agent from this page. This box of navigation requests pops up. This is one of those windows. You could remove this from File, like we talked about before, or you can just drag it down and put it at the bottom. So I'm so glad I did this. So here, if you notice, I just pulled in the last URL I was at, which was the product. So that means I'm building my agent from this product and not necessarily that home page. So I'm going to go back to my website. I'm going to make sure that I'm on this page 10. I'm going to copy it. And I could start this whole agent over by clicking File New and re-entering it. I'm going to double click on page 1. I can enter that new website here. Or I can load that URL in the URL bar and click Close this agent and load the new URL. Okay, that's where we want to start. By default, Mozenda can recognize different actions that are capable when we select an item. By selecting a specific area, it will highlight in this light green. That will tell you what piece of the HTML you're selecting. So if I hover over the name, it's going to turn this light green, and it's letting me know that that's the item that I'm selecting. And it will give me predefined actions that I can use. Click item, capture text, name value pairs. If these actions aren't what we would like, then we can add these manually by clicking Add Action in the top left-hand corner of the screen. All of these are able to be inputted without clicking on a direct piece of the website. We're going to go through each one of these, and as I'm going through these, take note of how you can see the websites that you're thinking about, how it would be helpful, because that's what we're going to be doing on our next sites, is listing out the actions that are associated with what we want in the HTML. When I first view this, I know that in my template, I said that I want the product name. But I don't just want it one time. I want all of the products here that are in a list. So I know that the information I have repeats, so I'm going to write it's a list. So when I select this piece of data, I can click Capture List, because I don't just want this one item, I want all of these items. It asks me to click a similar item to that. I'm going to select Vary at the bottom so that Mozenda can identify the pattern that I've been creating, so that it will be easier for it to find. And I'm going to type in product name and save that. I can do that same action by doing capture list right here. And we're going to jump to click item. So I know that I want to get my product name. We're going to add a click item where I click on the title and it brings me to the product details pane. Something that would be helpful is when you do have a click item, just name it. Sometimes it's easy to figure out what's happening, but it could be a couple months until you go to your next agent, so always just name them. When I click on page 1, you'll see that I have a capture text preview. This is a preview of my previous data. And page 2, it doesn't have any text here. That's because I haven't captured anything here. We're going to add an action, and I'm going to click capture text, and I'm going to say get this price. It's recognizing that there's a price there by default, so it can add in a refinement to say only look for it without the symbol, or make sure that the symbol is there. I'm going to be okay with that this time, and I'm going to provide the field name of price. Then from my add action list, I'm going to choose capture name value pairs. This is going to be fun. So it says click on 2 values you want to capture. I want to capture the model name and down to shipping. Then it asks me to click the label with the first value I selected. I'm going to choose model. When I save this, I now have name value pair, and it's listed as a table here. This is helpful when you do have those values that are associated with that is paired with another label. Something to note is that this dynamically adds fields as those name value pairs change. So if the order changes or if they add a different field, then that will be continually adding. This is pretty consistent, so we use name value pair here. And then from our action list, we have this capture table. This is really helpful when you have a beautiful table. You're able to identify, just like we did with name value pairs, the headers as well as the rows, and it will select the data for you. The next action we're going to do on this is a capture text. I can add a capture text in here manually, or I can just highlight over the information I want, click capture text. It asks me if I want to capture a date. I don't, so I'm going to provide a field name and click save. Let's look back at our template. So we have our product name, and we made that in a list. We got the price, the model number, the description, and we clicked on the product. The one thing we're missing is this next page. So let's go in and add that onto our agent. So I click back to that first page, and I'm going to add a page list. A page list is so helpful when you have this arrow. I'm going to click on it, and I'll be prompted to have a page list right here. I can also add it by clicking page list, and it will prompt you to look for a next button, and I'll create that. Let's test our agent to see how it works. Testing is always a good thing. So it looks like it's getting most of the information. We did hit an error where it said element was not found for this name value pair list. So it stopped on the item where it did hit this error so I can identify it. So I'm going to take a look, and I see that the ratings was just moved down a little bit more. It still has model, catalog, availability, and shipping. So a trick that you can do when you do hit an error like this is right click, go to location, and we're going to add an alternate location. So I'm going to say, yep, that will happen, and when that does happen, look over here at this other location. And let's resume it. See how it continued on the way and was able to get those pieces of information because we added a second location for it to look. I'm going to stop our agent. Next on our action list is set user input. This is really helpful when you are searching for a SKU number, an address, or you need to put an actual login. You can set a user input for it to search for those specific details. Capture custom value is great for error handling. We'll go over some more techniques with this later as far as error handling so that you know that your data is coming in clean, as well as if there is an error, we can have it let us know in the text that there is an error happening. Capture image. We'll capture any image that you'd like as a file. We can also have the option of downloading an image, and so that you can have a zip file of those images. That is great for any marketing projects that you have to validate your assets online. Capture screenshot creates an action where in your set of steps to take a picture. It will take a picture of the entire screen. I like this if I need to know something very quickly about the view of a web page, or maybe it's an advertisement and I want to know the branding style. I can add capture screenshot and then add a notify email and have it email me directly, so that while your agent is running, it will keep you informed about those screenshots. I would only recommend adding a notify email when it is a short agent list, because if you have a couple hundred items and getting that email is not the best use of your inbox. Another thing is with this screenshot and the email, it will only activate those by taking the screenshot and sending you an email when it's running inside the web console. One of our other actions is this clear browser cookies. This will refresh as if it's the first time looking at a website. Sometimes that's applicable when there's a lot of dynamic pieces to your website. Download file is great when you're downloading a PDF. Also, when you do capture a PDF inside Mozenda, it converts that PDF into HTML so that you can scrape the data from that PDF. We'll be using this input list. Input list allows you to import a file, whether that's from a standard collection that you've created yourself, or maybe it is from an agent collection. Say you got URLs or you got some information like countries or zip codes that you wanted to enter there. You can import a file, or you can even do a manual entry. If I wanted to search for specific products, I could search for cameras, videos, television. I could create that as an input list. When we load a new page, this is great for error handling as well as to increase the frequency or efficiency of your agent. The last one that we're going to talk about is just this scroll item. Sometimes we have websites that have what we call a lazy scroll. Lazy scroll is where as you scroll down to the bottom, then more products will load or more information will load. To help increase the speed of that, we can add a scroll item. And because we don't have one here, it says it doesn't recognize that, but you can set custom scroll parameters, so it will scroll until it gets to the bottom of the information you need before you start scraping your data. That's a good way to ensure that you're not just getting the first 15 results, but you're also getting all the information that's listed below. All right, we have covered most of the actions here in our action list. The load cookie store will be helpful if you're creating a login, and wait seconds we'll be going over later as we talk about troubleshooting when we hit an error or a job is maybe running slower in the web console than it is in the builder. So let's start with our other use case. This use case is one of my favorites because it is a qualitative example, but I also will be able to refer back to it as the week goes on so that we can use our web console to compare similar terms. So if there is similar language between the two, we can look for that inside the web console and have it mark it as the same. So we are going to be looking at horoscopes and specifically comparing those horoscopes across different daily horoscope websites to see the commonality. Is the universe really aligned and helping me have the best day, week, or month possible? So to do that, I want to make sure that I am getting a horoscope for every single sign. And then additionally, in that sign, I want to get the text. I want to get the weekly horoscope and the monthly horoscope. And I want that same information across the board for all of my agents. We're going to be using our agent template to do this. To begin getting started with our template, we're going to map out every single action that we're going to be taking. So in this example, I'm going to say that I need the list of signs. That's indicating to me that I'm going to do a capture list. From there, I need to click on the sign. And when I click on this sign, it's going to open a new page. When I open this new page, so to even help when you are writing your agents, I like to indent what I do on that page so it has a similar format of our action list. Then we're going to add, once it opens the new page, I want to capture today's horoscope, the weekly horoscope, and the monthly. And then from there, I wanted to do the same thing on every single sign. So I have my template. Something to make note of is it says today's is on that same page that I opened, But weekly, I have to click on it, and then it loads new information. Same with monthly. It's these small practices that will help you become a strong, powerful user. The more detailed you are with mapping this out, even noticing if the URL changes, that will help you being able to look at any website and say, okay, I need to do this action, and it will help you become, like I said, more powerful when it comes to building these. So now that I have my template, I'm going to go into my web console. I want these same fields across the board for all of my agents. So I'm going to go to agents, and I created this agent group. So I'm going to click plus, and I'm going to say sign test. This is creating a checklist for me so that I can verify the data that I'm going to be getting. We were typing in the field names when we were building our camera example. And in this example, we're just going to be using predetermined fields to click on all of those. While that's loading, I'm going to click File and New. I don't want to save our beautiful agent. And then I'll refresh my screen. When you use a template, you can have this option up here in your builder that says use a template. And from your template group, you can select what you'd like to apply to this specific agent that you're building. I'm going to choose our horoscope template and click use template. Right now you don't see anything special, it's pretty simplistic. Let's choose our website. I'm going to go as close as I can to this information. So I'm using this horoscope rather than going to the home screen of this page. I'm going to enter in my URL and click Start a New Agent from this page. From before, we have our action list, capture text preview, but on the right-hand side, we have the fields listed that I want to capture. These are text fields, and it makes it pretty easy for me to assign what I want captured. So I'm going to say, all right, let's get our sign name. We already knew that this was a list, so I'm going to capture this as a list and click sign. So rather than typing what I needed or typing the field name, it just selected it for me. Then I want to click in to each one of these. Because it is a list, when I add another action after this, it's going to know to do that on each item. So I'm going to click here, add click item, and I'm brought to today, and that's what I want. So I'm going to capture this text, and I don't want a date, so I'm going to deselect that and choose a field name. And I'm going to choose the word today, and it created that for me. Then I need to go to weekly, so I'm going to click on weekly. It loads a new page, and I'm going to capture this weekly information. It's not a date, so I'm going to provide a field name just by clicking on weekly. Then I want monthly. Click an item. And then if you notice, paragraphs are pretty tricky to harvest because depending on the way that the website is written, it could be just highlighting each one of these paragraphs individually, or in our case, we are very lucky where it's selecting all of this text at once. You know that because, or you can identify that on your side because it's going to be highlighting that in light green. If I just wanted this date, it's just highlighting that date in green. So maybe let's do that. Let's click on, I'm building my agent and I decided like, hey, I want to add another field that I didn't select before. So I'm going to add a new field and I'm going to call this month of the year. So I'm adding this in the far right hand side and clicking enter. So I now know this is for July, and I'm going to capture this text, but not the date. And I'm going to call this my monthly. So each page has a different preview. It's only showing the text that I'm capturing for that page. So we're going to combine all those and test it and get a preview of what it looks like. So that looks pretty good. We're able to get the signs that we need. I'm going to check to see if anything got repeated, and it looks like it's not. And the month of the year looks good. I think I want to do that for weekly. So I'm going to capture this text again. I'm going to save it as a date, but I'm going to change the name. So to change the name, I double clicked, or you can right click and click properties. I'm going to say weekly date. And click on capture text preview. If I don't like that format, that's okay. And I don't. So I'm going to delete it because I think it's too busy. And capture it again. And I'm not going to save it as a date. And I'm going to create a new field that's called weekly date. And same with today. On the right hand side, you'll notice that in my template, I have check marks by everything that I've crossed off. If I haven't gotten it, it's going to have that blue action is not that has not been captured yet. The fields that I've added to are listed underneath the agent fields. I labeled 2 things today. So they did a double check box. And that means that that information could potentially write over each other. So always make sure that you have a different field name if it's different information that you're collecting. Now, when we're getting qualitative data where there's a lot of text, it can get messy. It could be over capturing information, just like in this information, I'm capturing July over here, but I don't want July over here. So something that you can do, we're going to do it here on this monthly, is I'm going to refine the text. And I'm going to say, I can do a couple things. I can replace the date with contents replacement, or I can define what I want to capture. So I'm going to say that I want this to look for the numbers 2019 dash space and then get anything after that. So this is identifying a landmark for me to refer back to, and then it's capturing everything after that. So now I have my month in one field, and then I have my summary as well. And this could be applied on my weekly capture as well. And this one would become more tricky because we do have these dashes, and there's 2 of them, and there's 2 dates. So when it comes to segmenting out different or like parsing data, it can get tricky. You can also try highlighting to see if that works for your use case. Let's practice our final scope project scoping skills with a location base. So we're going to go exit out of here. Our templates can be applied on any agents. So if we go to our horoscope agent group, I'm going to change summary to agents. I use that on 3 different websites, and I ran their data. And if you can even see, you can go between agents to view the data that you've pulled for each one of those. So it's now showing what we were building. I'm going to show you guys how you can build a template similar to what we built today. I'm clicking on our sign test and changing the view from summary to fields. And this is where you can add those template field names. So when I click on the green plus sign, new template field, I can write sign. I can even choose if it's going to be a number, if it's going to be a date, if it's going to be a file. All of that can be specified in here. So this is where you would create your template for that information. Let's go to our location. So this one is really helpful if you guys are doing a set user input. You can program Mozenda to choose specific dates that you want to be searching for. We can also filter from the dropdown if how many attendees we want. If we only want the ones for 500 plus because we don't want to plan a trip unless we have that information, this is where we could start. Always make sure that you apply those filters and click search when you are building an agent, and that is included in your process. For this specific while we're scoping it out, if I choose specific dates, I'm going to watch to see if the URL changes. And it did change. We'll go into depth a little bit later about that, but noting that if it does change, that you could use this as your starting URL will be really helpful. Then we can search for those directly, and it will, sorry, let me back up. When we search for those and we add the date, then the information has changed the way it's presented. So always just keep note of that. We're going to use the main URL and then use different inputs as we go along. So I'm going to copy this. Here, I want to click into the event that's happening, make sure I have the date, and the website URL if it's applicable. So let's go into our agent. You'll notice I still have my horoscope template added on here, and I don't want that. So we're going to erase that. We're going to start a new agent from this group. Okay, let's get started. So right now I have no calendar information. I want to change this drop down and make sure that it filters, that it gets all this information for not just 100 plus, but 500 plus and 1,000 more. So we're going to click through and start with our list first. Everybody builds agents differently. So depending on what you feel the most comfortable with, that's what you should start with. So for me, I feel really comfortable starting with a list and then making sure it's getting the right information and then building upon that. And it's different for every single person. So I'm going to choose my start date, and I'm going to capture this as a list. And I'm going to do start date. And then I'm going to do end date. Because I'm already doing a list, I'm going to try just capturing it as a text. And as I click through these, there was a question. It was a great question. We're talking about how to modify the refined capture text and if there's documentation about the coding. And yes, there is. The coding that's used there is called regular expression. We'll be spending some time there, and then there are some articles on regular expression on our help center. But becoming more familiar with regular expressions will help you with any parsing or refinement when it comes to text. This is really helpful if you are working with older websites where they're just segmented paragraph by paragraph. So regular expression would be the best thing to use. And I'll send out some documentation as well. Great question. We're going to do the venue and attendees. And save and refine. So I already see something that's unusual to me. So when I captured this information, I have the first 3 results and then it's blank. And then it goes down to 27 and it's blank. And 32 and it's blank. So if something to help us make sure, one way that we could get this information and have it be really clean is using XPath. If XPath is out of your comfort zone, there's another thing we can do. We can add capture custom value, and we're going to have the word clean. And when it gets all of the data it needs to, then we're going to say write the word clean. And it looks like it applied that to there too. So let's test it and see what happens. What that does is while we're doing our action, in this case it didn't apply very well, so we could filter this out later inside the web console. But if we add this custom value of clean at the end of our list, then when this shows up, it means it got all of this information. So it will say capture the date for the start and the end, the venue, attendees, and if it can't capture attendees, then this value clean won't be applied. In this case, it's still capturing that blank one, so we'll go over some filters we can apply to that later. Okay, so now we have our basic agent. I'm going to see if there's any pagination so far. And it looks like it's good. And we're going to apply, select from this drop-down. So if I wanted to do a set user input, we could have this create an input list for us where we only include items that are in this list. We could include all except the first one or all of the following. So I'm going to press OK and put this at the top because I want it to do this first. And I want it to go through each one of those and then get this information. Something to keep in mind is where the list begins and where it ends. On this first page, it says end list and then another end list. So it's going to do this and then stop. And then it's going to perform this action. So let's test it and see. Always test it. You'll never know until you test it. So it did it kind of the same, but it's really clean. Like the data doesn't look like the information we'd want. So something we can do is take our begin list, excuse me, excuse me, and put that inside of our set user input. Let's test it then to see how the data turns out. So we got quite a bit more information because it's able to go through and it's selected from the drop down and then got the events and then selected from the other group of attendees and then applied from there. Because of our time, we're just going to add one more action where we click here and add a click item. And then I'm going to capture the text of the website. I want this to be our website URL and save that. And in my capture text preview, it says view website opens a new window, but I want to get the actual behind the scenes. So I'm going to click refine capture text, go behind the scenes, and I'm going to see if I can refine out where that website is. And it's going to bring me all websites in HTML, and we'll cover this, I believe, on Wednesday. We'll begin with an href equals quotes and then ends with a quotes. So I just created a landmark for us to view, and I click save. So now I have that website URL. Moving forward, if during now and our next webinar, I would encourage you guys to build a simple agent yourself. Map it out on your favorite website, see what actions you guys can perform as well, and then see what works, see what doesn't work. If there's a different way that you build that's different than me, but you get the best results, and maybe they're different, it's a different format, but it works for you, that's fantastic. Just keep building and practicing. The camera website that we used today is also available in the tutorials in the builder, so feel free to use that, and the webinar recording will be sent out within an hour after this is finished. Please let me know what additional questions you have, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next course. Thank you guys so much.